You're probably wondering, what is a Tradmatic Catholic? Let me tell you, it's a word that I made up, but I promise you it's a thing. I am a former Protestant Catholic convert, and it's basically a combination of the words traditional and charismatic. But let me explain. Traditional in the sense that being Catholic in essence is being traditional. It's traditional Christianity. But I'm also traditional Catholic. I don't go to a Latin mass, but it's still a very reverent and sophisticated traditional mass. Nearly the opposite of what I think most modern Catholics are familiar with. I'm referencing the really ugly, corny, modern Vatican II suburban churches. Now, I'm not prepared to say that I'm entirely against Vatican II, but I will say that I think the Catholicism most people grow up with is a poor representation of Catholicism. And I think a large part of that is due to the watering down of the faith. The architecture, the liturgy, and the conservative culture of Catholicism. Typically, these traditional masses are in a beautiful cathedral with sacred art on full display revealing God's love and redemptive story. It's also a more ancient liturgy. So there's Latin choir music and incense, and altar boys and priests wear full vestments. But I think the part that I appreciate the most is that the priest faces the altar during the consecration of the host, and the way that we receive communion, kneeling at the altar rail on the tongue. If you really believe that this is Christ's body given for you, why wouldn't you? Now, what I mean by charismatic is not the charismatic movement within the church, but actually the definition of the word charismatic, which means to exercise a compelling charm that inspires devotion in others. A better term for this is probably evangelical Catholicism. This is a movement that kind of came out of the JP2 era of the church and basically takes the good within Protestantism and Catholicizes it. To put it simply, it emphasizes the heart, so having a personal relationship with Christ instead of just having mere head knowledge of him and his church. This is the good that came out of Vatican II. So think worship music at adoration. I actually like worship music better as a Catholic because orienting myself towards the Blessed Sacrament keeps me ordered towards God and not others and myself. Think of good preaching that evangelizes, Bible studies, parish and youth programs that properly catechize, and a newfound emphasis on men being the spiritual leaders of the domestic church. So what does combining these two very opposing and different styles of Catholicism practically look like? Well, for me, it means going to a traditional mass, but listening to worship music on the way. It means you can pray spontaneously with friends, but also make a pilgrimage to the church and utilize the sacraments. It means you can pray novenas, read scripture, journal, and also instill silence in your day. It means listening to talks and homilies that grow your faith and also teach you church history. And it means building authentic community with people practicing virtue and pursuing holiness. In an essence, it's developing practices that are both spontaneous and habitual. If you liked this video, feel free to like it and subscribe to the page. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram and join me on the journey. Thanks for watching.